Okay, we're going to do a pantograph. I'm just doing it small. I've got a black piece of fabric on white batting, and we're going to do a small pantograph just to show you an easy way to do row after row. On my quilt, I have done a straight line right at the top, which is right here, to make sure that I pin my quilt on straight. I've also done a zigzag baste on both sides, and the next thing I want to do is a straight line just outside the quilt. So I'm going to use on my machine, I'm going to hit the horizontal lock, which means I cannot move my machine right and left. I'm going to do a little bit more. So I'm going to put my hopping foot right there, do a horizontal lock, and then I can do a straight line without the machine moving back and forth. So go ahead and take a single stitch, pull up my bobbin thread, okay, and then I'll move the machine away, go right back to the starting point, and take a single stitch. And I can cut my threads. Now the things you're going to need in order to do this pantograph this direction would be a ruler. I just have a 4 by 14 inch Omni grid. I have a sheet protector, just clear plastic, and a dry erase pen. This one happens to have a little eraser on the end, but a little scrap of batting works too. Okay. This one will allow me to do a nesting design. It works for nesting and non-nesting, but I'm going to show a nesting just to be interesting. Alright, so now I want to go ahead and set up my quilt. When you are on your machine, main screen, this right here gets you to the computer portion. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mark my upper left corner with painter's tape, and that's going to be right at the junction of this straight line right here and the straight line up here. Oops. And I'm just going to do a single stitch so I know what my upper left corner is. Okay? Now I've already straight stitched on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead, I've got that line. I've marked the upper left. Now it says move your machine to the right front corner. So I'm going to move it over to this side. Move my stuff. I always put stuff on my quilt. It's kind of a bad thing. Alright, so I've got my machine on the left line. It doesn't matter how long. Usually as close to the front, the belly bar, which is this, as I can. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the plus, and it tells me what my table width, etc., which is your quilt width, and table height. So, okay. Alright, so now I want to add my pattern. I've already chosen one. I'm just doing wave surf. It's going to be quick and easy. Select the pattern. Now I know I want it to fill the design. We've got a red outline. That's the area I designated. So I'm going to go to this little paintbrush in the upper right corner. I'm going to say repeat. And I can just click in the empty space and say, let's say 5 repeats. Okay. It's obviously bigger. I can say, you know, I really prefer 4. Click on the space on the other side and you get 4. Alright. I still need to size it. If you have red X's in the middle, you can, on the repeat page, hit your spacing as minus or plus, and that will scooch them together. And it's just kind of a trial and error until you get the X's to disappear. I'll do another video on that at some point. Okay, so I want to smart scale these, and I'm going to go to the scale right here, and I'm going to say Smart Scale. I'm going to keep it proportional. Okay, now if the red line is visible at the top, I want to go ahead and say move. And I can move it down or up. I absolutely want this red line to be pretty much highlighted by the green on both the right and the left as well as the top. And then I can hit OK to make sure it's in that upper portion. Okay, next thing I want to do is my stitches per inch. If I'm going to stitch off the quilt, I really want 12 stitches per inch. No smaller number, because a size 8 or a 10, those stitches would break. Okay, the other thing you want to highlight is your needle. This green button is your go button. If there's a red button, you can hit stop and it stops the pattern and it stops all memory of the pattern pretty much. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move it to my upper left side, kind of where I know it's going to quilt. The machine will move it to the right spot. The machine will move to the start of the pattern block, which is where this circle is, right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit OK. So it'll move it. You can move the machine to pull up your bobbin thread. You absolutely must pull up your bobbin thread. Okay. It's going to stitch slower or faster depending on the design. I have it at 50% right here. We're just going to watch it stitch. I'm not going to stop the video. It goes slow in and out of points. If you find you have puffies, you can kind of put your hand on. One thing to remember while it's stitching is that I want to allow at least the width of my pantograph at the bottom of my quilt. So if you know your quilt is 50 inches and you're doing a 15-inch pass, you can get 3 rows, but then you have a 5-inch pass at the bottom. At this point, we can't clip that bottom of that edge, so you want to make sure you have enough quilt back and batting at the bottom of your quilt. It's just a little bit of math to kind of play around with your design. You can also time each pass so you can kind of get an idea of how long each pass is going to take. If you need an open design, this one is actually really good when you're doing a big quilt. I usually pull off any fuzzies while it's quilting. Oops, let's kind of move it over. It's almost done. Okay, we're almost there. There we go. It does a little bit of a locking stitch. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and move my machine, pull my thread, do a single stitch, and I can pull up my bobbin thread. And clip any other threads. Put them in the garbage, keep them away from your machine. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do, and this is actually quite an easy way of making sure your pattern is indexed correctly. And that is, we're going to trace over it on this piece of plastic. It's just a quick and dirty tracing. So I'm going to kind of poke my pin where on my plastic. I want to mark the, oopsie, let's go ahead here. I want to mark the corner line and my left line, and just the design doesn't have to be too perfect. Okay, so I've marked that design, and now I want to just kind of place where it's going to be. Now, and the important things that I actually want to have measured are my starting point, which is right here, and I want to see where I want to nest this design. Let me see if I can turn the light off, and if it's a little bit, oopsie, turn the black light off. I'm going to move the camera so you can kind of see, oh, there we go, where I kind of want it to fit. The previous row is kind of right here, and this nests right in. I just kind of want to make sure that, like this line and this line, they look consistent with how I'm placing the design. So I'm going to place it right there, and I want to mark where my starting point is, right here. And I've just put a pin there. And now I'm just going to start with a piece of tape. Turn the light back on. And just want to mark exactly on that line where it's going to be. Draw a circle around it so I can see it, that my needle hole is right there. Squish that in a bit. That was fast, that was easy. Now I can go over to this starting point. Now if I needed to roll my quilt, I would. If I needed to continue this line down, I would. I would also continue my zigzag base as I roll my quilt. This is the same as you would do row to row. Oopsie, not that. That's not what I want. I want over here. I want properties. And I'm just going to say, I'm going to have it directly over that new start point. And I'm going to say move start point. And I'm going to say okay. And now I can actually stitch. And it will start from there. And it will do the same row. Okay. Again. Now, I will also leave those tape marks on until I finish the quilt in case something bad happens. I also will have a notebook that says, this is how big my design is, this is how many across they are, this is how far apart from the first row to the second row, which I'll measure with my ruler, and I'll put on my little piece of paper because you never know if an emergency happens. Right now we're about 5 3/8 inches apart. And the nesting actually looks quite good. There are other ways to do this. This one is very foolproof and works great. And I always make sure I'm in the room when I'm quilting and let it continue. And we'll have more videos to come.